What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, I know I'm a couple of days late on this. In fact, as I film this, this is, well, technically Sunday the 7th now. But I did want to talk about the Liverpool game because really it's the first time that I've seen signs of life under Tuchel. Because don't get me wrong, like I've been saying, the good unbeaten streak is fine. I don't mind the results. I'm not complaining like, oh, it's good results, but it's still just not good enough, but there's still not really much of a sign that things were changing. It still felt like we were still scraping by. The performances weren't really improving, and it felt like all it was going to take was meeting that one tough team that was going to put pressure on us and give us trouble in our back line, and then all of a sudden, boom, winning or unbeaten streak gone. So going into Liverpool, that was one of the things I was worried about because Liverpool are definitely a team that like to press you high. So I don't know if that was the mindset of Tuchel going in, and so he changed it up for this one game where he's like, all right, let's get the ball forward more, or if that's what he's been trying to get them to do, and now they're just now starting to do it. It could be either or. I mean, there were still moments in the game that we definitely looked to pass back, and keep possession of our back line again, which just it, our game eventually gets back to that point. Like even in the games where we're playing well, that's kind of what it reverts to at some point. Is just okay. Well, I have an option there, but I'm gonna keep it safe and drop it backwards. So there's still that part of our game there, but there's so much more of actually looking to be aggressive, to be positive, get past that first line of press, and actually put some pressure on Liverpool's defense. And it paid dividends. We actually looked like the better team. Obviously, they created their chances still, but I mean, they're going to. They have a very strong offensive line. Their injuries this season have really not affected their front line as much as it has their back line. So, of course, we're going to see them create chances and opportunities, but we managed to do well at repelling those. Um, but the main thing was just, again, we actually looked to attack. We looked to get the ball down the field quick, and we drove at them, and it looked good for the first time under Tuchel. And I'm just like, yes, this is what I've been wanting to see. So now the question is, can he keep it consistent? That remains to be seen, and we'll see on Monday because Everton, don't know which Everton to expect. You could either get the good Everton that's going to cause you trouble and make you have to play, play well to beat them, or you could get the Everton that just likes to roll over and say, hey, just don't score too many on us, all right? So we'll see what happens. But talking about individuals, though, it's going to be a bit harder for me to really accurately say all of my opinions of the individuals because it's been a couple days since I watched the game. So individual performances, unless they played really well or really poorly, I'm not going to remember after a couple days. Thankfully, I can't think of anyone that had a poor game, at least from what I remember. Everybody played decently enough. They all had some good moments. Still a couple issues here and there, but I mean, not as many as we've been having before. So definitely an improvement overall in that department. But Mendy, still solid overall. He's just keeping his spot as a first team keeper right now, which is good because there were some hiccups in his game like a few games ago when Lampard was out or getting out and then Tuchel was coming in. There were some moments where it kind of felt like maybe he's reverting to kind of the Kepa mentality where it's like, oh, I don't want to work too hard, right? So the fact that he's kind of getting back to his best, what we saw earlier this season, is good to see. In the defense, though, this is where I really felt like we won a lot of the game was these back three. Because it is kind of becoming the back three we're seeing since Silva's been out injured for a while is Espilicueta on the right, Christensen in the middle, and then Rudiger on the left. That's kind of been our best back three. Zuma has had some slip-ups of late. So now with this back three, I don't feel as worried. When we don't have the ball, you've got Rudiger and you've got Espilicueta as their flanking center backs, and they are just so good about being like basically shutting down a lot of the attack. Rudiger doesn't always read the play very well, but he's very athletic and he can make up the ground if he does make a mistake. Espilicueta reads the game fantastically, so he rarely ever gets caught out of position. He's almost always in the right position to make the block or to make the tackle. So both of them, I really feel like have just been solid defensively. And then Christensen in the middle, well, he still does have his moments where he gets caught out. Now that he has those two that flank him, he doesn't have to worry about it as much. But when we're on the ball, he gets to shine then because he is very good with his feet. So whenever we're looking to distribute, whenever we're moving around in the back, with him in the middle, I don't really feel worried. And Silva is the same way, but Silva's definitely getting to that point now where it's like the play is a little bit slower, his passing can be a little bit slower, and he doesn't often look to go forward. And Christensen, I feel like, is starting to look forward a lot more. At least from what I can tell, I may be completely wrong about that. But based on what I'm seeing, it seems like Christensen is more willing to make that pass forward, and Silva's more likely to just kind of keep possession in the backfield. So, but yeah, those three I thought had a fantastic game. The wingbacks did okay. James and Chilwell, I thought defensively looked okay. On the attack, still want to see a bit more out of both of them, just because, we brought Chilwell in, like I said, we brought him in to be a good attacking option, just like Alonso is, but better on defense. James used to be really good on the attack last season, and he's kind of lost that this season. So definitely want to see more out of them going forward. I know it's not everything that you need from your more defensive players, but it is kind of what we need out of them since they're the ones providing the width for us. And then the center, Conte and Jorginho. When I first saw Jorginho, I was worried. And I'll say he was probably our weakest player on the pitch. But the one thing that he did that made me say, okay, I'm glad we had him today, he actually looked to go forward. And when he does that, and when he does it well, and his passes forward are not just like, oh, let me try to pass it to you. Oops, I kicked it to the defender. When his passes forward are looking to make really defense-breaking passes, that's when he's exactly what we wanted to get. And that's one of the things, like watching Fabregas play. I remember watching him just pick out passes so easily that just broke the defense down in one ball. Jorginho has that ability. He's done it before. He just doesn't do it enough. Well, in the Liverpool game, I felt like he actually did it more than just once or twice. I thought he played quite a few balls that really put the defense under pressure. And that's not normally what I see out of him. So I thought, even though defensively he still has issues, he's still not quick enough to be in there defensively, he's still not strong enough to be in there defensively, his forward play made it kind of worth it to have him in the midfield. And then Conte just doing all of his normal stuff again. He's back to his best, in my opinion. I did see something about his fitness levels. And obviously, when you're playing so quickly, you do want to make sure you keep an eye on your players. And he is kind of at the age now where he's not able to go every single game like he used to. So probably likely see him rested on Monday. It's kind of disappointing because I wish he could just play every game like he used to and dominate the pitch every game like he used to, but it definitely shows that he's not there anymore. So definitely want to keep him 100% so he can show the world-class player that we know he is when he's fully fit. But yeah, he did his job very well against Liverpool. The assist to set up Mount's goal was fantastic as well, and that's not something we normally see out of him. But yeah, he just caused Liverpool's midfield a lot of problems and didn't really let them have a chance to play, so it's fantastic to see. The front three, out of the front three, I thought Ziyech was the quietest. And just, he's still not quite back to what we saw from him earlier this season. He's still not quite hit those levels again. So it's definitely something he's got to get back to, because, obviously Christian Pulisic's not really done much to overtake him either, so both of them are kind of fighting for that spot right now. But yeah, one of them needs to just step up, take the reins, and say, all right, I am going to be the creative player up top right now. I'm going to be the one you give it to. I'm going to beat some players. I'm going to make some great passes that's going to cut through the defense, break through the lines. One of them needs to figure out how to do it, because they used to know how to do it. Now they've lost it, so now I got to refigure it out. Because both of them are just kind of sitting on average play right now. Like, they do a couple good things here and there, but overall the play not really quite up to the standard that I think a lot of us have set for them. Mount, it got man of the match, and obviously it was a fantastic goal. Overall, I think his play was about what I expect out of him. It's not like he had one of his better games. I thought his in some of his better games, he makes everything happen in the front line. In this one, he obviously was still doing everything he normally does. It was kind of his consistently good game. But the goal is kind of what pushed it to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, he deserves man of the match for that. But yeah, overall, like, I expected a little bit more, from him, from the best of Mount. But then again, it could also just be he's played a lot of games in a row, so maybe he needs a rest on Monday as well. I know, you've had Havertz on the bench for a while, so maybe it's a chance to reintroduce him on Monday. But yeah, it definitely seemed like even though Mount still had his flashes of brilliance, there weren't as many as I'm used to seeing. I know that may seem very harsh point of view, but I don't know. It's just kind of how I felt when I was watching the game. And then Werner, I thought, did really well. Unlucky to get ruled offside for a part of your body that's not playable. I thought that was the rule, is that the body part it's not playable. You can't be called offside. Why is this part of your arm offside if you can't hit it with that part of your arm? It's been a thing, right? Throughout this season, throughout last season, this part of your arm on the sleeve, which would get called a handball, if you hit it here, that's being called offside. It doesn't make any sense. VAR. Dumb. But yeah, so unlucky not to get the goal, but I mean, he created quite a few chances with his runs in behind, and honestly, it was the perfect game for him too. Because Liverpool are going to press you higher up the field. They are going to leave some space in behind, and that's exactly what Werner wants to play against. He wants to be able to get behind the defenders and run onto it. So created a few opportunities because of that, and again, should have gotten a goal if not for dumbass VAR. And then sub-wise, I do remember Kovacic came on for Mount at one point. I remember Pulisic came on for Ziyech, which I actually appreciated that sub from Tuchel. Like, I remember thinking it probably should be Pulisic for Ziyech, and that was the first sub. I'm like, okay, cool. And then Kovacic came on for Mount for a bit more defensive cover. Neither of them really did anything that special when they came on. They just some subs for fresh legs, and for Ziyech, or not for Ziyech, for Kovacic it was a bit more of a defensive move. And I don't think there was another sub after that, but I'm going to check so I don't seem dumb. I already am looking dumb because I don't know and I have to look it up. But, in my mind, I'm thinking maybe if I just look it up and say it, I won't look dumb. Oh, yeah, Werner was subbed out for Havertz in the last minutes of the game. I remember that. I actually do now. Now that I saw it, I do remember that sub happening. I just remember thinking, like, it doesn't really help Havertz at all. It just wastes some time for us. So, kind of sucks on Havertz's point of view. Like, obviously it helps the team, but for him, like, he needs to get some minutes because we need him to get back to what he was doing earlier this season. So just subbing him on as a waste of time sub is like, that kind of sucks for him. But yeah, overall, I mean, it was still a good game. I guess I will address the handball because that was one of the talking points that came out of it as well. I think, thankfully, it wasn't nearly as big of a deal because we also got a goal ruled off unfairly for the offside. So it was kind of like people weren't really as pissed. And obviously, Man U fans typically are a lot more vocal and whiny on social media. So whenever the handball against Hudson-Odoi happened, all of them blew up. Liverpool fans aren't really in a good place right now, so they're not as vocal, and they normally aren't as vocal anyways. But this was one that it's definitely closer to a handball than Hudson-Odoi's was. Hudson-Odoi was just battling for position. He puts his arm around trying to get in front of him, and his arm is in a natural position when the ball hits it. And it doesn't deflect enough to where it changed the path of the ball. Like, it's not like that deflection stopped it from going into the goal or stopped it from reaching a Man U player. It was already headed that way, and it narrowly flicked off his hand and kept going the same way. This one was a little bit closer, only because his hand's up here, which for Conte is a natural position. Like, he does sort of play with his arms up here. It's like Sterling, when he runs up here, like this is not a natural position for most people to run, but this is how Sterling runs. So it's like, how can you say what's a natural position at that point? But yeah, that's how Conte plays. Hands are kind of up here, like he keeps his hands moving around. So it's kind of a natural position for him, but it is a little high and it's slightly away from his body. And I think the damning factor that made a lot of people go, that should have been a handball, is the fact that flicked it up, which dropped it down for him, and then he kicks it out. And I think something similar happened for Fulham that actually got their goal ruled out, because I think it hit a guy on the hand and it dropped it. It like settled it for somebody else to score. I actually didn't watch that one, so I don't know for sure. But I think, honestly, I mean, I'm a little biased, so I'm not going to sit here and go like, oh, well, it definitely was not a handball because this and this. I think the reason the referee didn't give it on the day is only because it is so close. And if you're going to give it for something like that, that's where strikers or attacking players, all they're going to do is they're going to get close, they're going to get in the box, and then they're going to see somebody, like having their arms out to balance themselves, and they're just going to chip it up right into the elbow, and then the penalty is going to be given every time. When it's that close, it is hard to give, and I would have been pissed if it was given as a fan, but I wouldn't have been able to really argue it either. And in this case, I can understand why Liverpool fans are pissed that it wasn't given, but I think also there is a decent reason why it wasn't as well. Like, it's very much a toss-up, and it's why VAR and the handball rule need some sort of change to be made. Because there's so many moments where in another game that could have been given as a handball, and it probably would have made just as much sense as in this game where it wasn't given as a handball. So they need to change the handball rule to make it much more, no more gray areas, black and white, and VAR just needs a do-over in general, because it's getting way too much to the point where now VAR is controlling the game, and it feels like some VAR referees want video assistant referees. That's what I just said. God. Yeah, it's nearly 1 a.m, so in case you're wondering where my brain is, that's why. But yeah, there are some VARs that just, you can tell they want to make the decision. They want to get involved. They're looking, and you can see they're like, oh, hang on. And so we have to wait for like 5 seconds while the VAR checks it, because they want to make sure, that there was no decision that they possibly could have made. Because if there is, they're going to... There's too many that are like that. Some of them prefer just to not have a hand in it unless it's something extremely obvious, like, okay, this guy was like 3 steps offside and you missed it. Or, something happened off the ball and all the referees missed it. In that case, it's like, obviously that's what VAR is for. But if it's a scenario like, again, Werner's sleeve that would have been a handball is offside, you don't need VAR for that. The handball's in the box, where it's slight touches off the hand, or it's so close where it's just deflection, balls bouncing around, and the hands are up because they're out, and it's just you're running. You don't run like this. Those are the situations that it feels like VAR just needs to stay out of it. If the referee didn't call it in the moment, leave it alone. If the referee did call it in the moment, leave it alone. Unless it is something glaringly obvious, leave it alone. Like, it's just, VAR's starting to piss me off. Because it really is. It's getting obnoxious. It's getting to that point where it's like, they feel like they need to have a hand in the game. They need to do something to get that paycheck. It's like, no. Just be there in case something glaringly obvious happens, because that's what it was intended for. There are moments in a game that happen very quickly, and the referee can't always see it because they don't always have the best angle. That's what VAR is for. The tight offside calls, it should not be happening. Like, the VAR should not be stepping in unless it was just the assistant referee missed it because it happened so quick. Like, if he's a step offside, he's a step offside. If his arm is offside, should leave it alone. If you draw that line and it looks close enough, it looks close enough. Honestly, I wish they would just change the offside rule so it's like, if your feet are in the same line, it's the same onside. Like, it should not be, oh, well, my arm's here. Like, that. How is that getting an advantage? Anyways, I know I'm ranting. It's because it's so late and like I've been wanting to get this rant out for a couple of days now, so that's why I kind of went off on a tangent on it. But anyways, back to Chelsea for the finale. Yeah, it was a good game. I hope we can keep this momentum going into Everton. I hope we continue to see some of what we were seeing in this game, some of the positive and the aggressive play that we we're seeing. Like, I want to see more of that. I want to see us looking to try to create chances instead of just looking to keep possession, looking to be safe, turning around and going, hey, here, I know there's a guy making a run behind me, but I'd much rather give it to you because I don't know if I can get it to him. I want to see more of let's go for it. Let's actually go for the chance. Might it lead to more giveaways? Of course. But it's always going to be a risk. You're always going to risk giving the ball away when you're trying to attack. You also won't score goals if you don't attack. So you gotta go for it. You gotta give it a chance, or else you're not gonna score. So, anyways, all in all, though, that's about all of my opinions from the game. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.